Alright, here we are on to part 3. So by now I've 3D printed a couple more parts, made a lot of adjustments to the back piece of the screen. But right here I'm just putting everything together just to see how well it works. I'm just putting in the DMG board, the spacer I have between the board to the motherboard, and then also like some speaker covers and the other parts that are being shown here. So right here are the new parts that I made. This piece is just to hold the power button and the volume slider in place so that could be screwed down to the back piece of the screen. And this is so that everything will line up with the original like DMG parts. So right here I have the slider, that'll go in, and then making sure everything slides well. And just screwing that down as I get the power switch into place. And then on the other side, I'll have the charging port also screwed in the pretty much the same way. I just have like a 3D printed housing piece for it that screws into the back piece again. And then after making sure all that goes in, I will now have the battery holder also going. Yeah, and this is really just to test all the buttons, the charging port, and this volume slider to make sure that everything works correctly. And if there's any adjustments, I I now, the power switch is, or was, pretty hard to switch, so I made some adjustments with that. Same thing with the volume slider, where I made it a bit too big for it, so I had to shrink it down a bit to make it work properly. So yeah, right here I was thinking it was just like, maybe I screwed down the screws too tight, and if that was maybe pinching down on the volume slider, but it wasn't. I made it a bit too big for it. And then yeah, right here it does still turn on properly, which is great, and the volume slider does work, which is also great. And then that's pretty much it for this part. Like, those pieces get a few more variations to it, but it's really just like fine-tuning the small stuff in it to make it work cleaner and a bit better. But yeah, that moves us on to my least favorite part of this whole thing. As of now, I've finished this whole prototype, and I'm working on like my final one with mods and whatnot. But this part is absolutely my least, not even my least favorite. I just hated doing this part. So I removed the cartridge reader off the motherboard, and I individually soldered cables to it from the motherboard onto the cartridge reader so I can move it around freely and all that. This was horrible. I hated doing this. This was terrible. Right here, I'm going back and forth between white and black, just so that I could color code it, just in case if one pops out. I could easily tell which one it is just by having different colors, which made that part a lot easier, because I'm still not that good at soldering. So a lot of my wires did pop off a bit, and these aren't amazing quality wires too, so that was also part of it. But they would pop off, and I would have to resolder it a bunch each time. But yeah, this is I just hated it so much. And even this part right here, this wasn't the bad part, soldering them to the motherboard. The bad part was soldering them onto the cartridge reader, because at least the motherboard has like a back piece to it. You can solder down onto something, while this one is kind of just hanging there. And I had to like kind of like do them like this, where it's like diagonal, just because of I'm flipping it around, so I have to do that. But yeah, this was just god awful. So after skipping through all of that, because I just don't want to think about that again, another issue was the battery. So the battery was going to be in the way of the cartridge reader of where I wanted it. So I was going to have to solder cables to the battery, and I want to be very careful with this because I didn't want the battery to explode in my face. That would have been horrible. So I just took my time with it, made sure to let it cool down in between trying to solder the cable onto it, which was fairly annoying. But after getting them both, again, color coding them so I don't accidentally short the board somehow. And then I will be soldering them to the top of the black piece with the where the battery contact would be. I just heard that this is better than soldering them onto the gold points, or like the gold color points where the battery would actually connect to it, just because this is like easily undoable and won't like ruin it completely. But after all this, I just removed that piece in general and just soldered the pieces directly to the motherboard. So right here, I'm trying the new battery case, and I'm just holding it in place to see if it fits properly. And I will be trying to power it on to make sure I soldered everything correctly. I believe there's an error with it. It wouldn't read properly. I believe this was because one of the cables popped out at this time, or they were bridging one or the other. But after just tweaking with it a bit, I was able to fix it. And then this part right here happened where it would turn on, the logo would boot properly, and then just got stuck to a white screen for a while. I have no idea why. So I literally just turned it off, back on, and then back on again, and it worked properly. So I have no idea what the issue was with that. But again, I'll just be testing everything, making sure that all the buttons still work and that the volume slider also works. And now we get onto my next piece, which is the, I guess, casing for the cartridge reader, so that it won't just be loose in the shell. See, there's this piece that kind of holds it in place that will screw into the back part of the DMG shell to hold it in place. And of course, there's also the GBA versus GBC mode reader or switcher, and that will also go in there. And after screwing it all together, again, I'll be testing it just to make sure that it works. And this time I'll be testing it with a original Game Boy game. It's got pictures right here, just to make sure that that mode reader works. And it kind of works right here, where it knows it's in Game Boy Color mode. However, as you can see, the Nintendo logo is slightly messed up, but I was able to fix that after, again, it was just a wiring issue. But now we're on to the next part, where it is now time to modify the back piece even more, so that I could get a Game Boy Advance game to fit in there. So right here, I'm just kind of eyeballing everything, and just to see like where it would be once it would be like plugged in. And so I'm just marking everything with an X-Acto knife just to see where it would be. And then afterwards I'll go at it with a Dremel just to remove everything. So the main part of this is that I had to remove some part off the side, and then the cover needs to get lowered a bit. And then I'll also be using this sheet of acrylic that I just got off of Amazon to kind of make like a new screen protector to cover it, because right now I just have just the screen itself, and I've removed the original screen protector that was on it originally. And so I'll just be making a new one out of this sheet of acrylic using the new template, or a updated template that I printed. Okay, and after doing all of that, we're back here again. Wasn't the cleanest job, but I got it to work. And then the screen is terrible. I tried spray painting the back of it to make like the black border like how it originally was. However, this spray can was 98% empty, and it took me like 10 minutes just to get like enough to actually cover it, and even then it wasn't that good. Trying the Tetris game right here, and it works completely fine. And then just testing it again, and then I'll be swapping it out for the Namco Museum one. And this metal piece wouldn't fit in there as it was, so I just kind of ignored it for now. Eventually I did cut it so that it would fit, because without it, taking out the Game Boy Advance cartridge is the absolute pain. Like right here, I was able to make it fit and everything, working perfectly fine. But as I pull it out, I actually have to use like tweezers to do it, because there's no back piece for it to to push against to remove it, and it'll actually go underneath to the underneath it. So I had to use the tweezers to get it. But eventually I do cut it to size so that it will work with it. And that's basically everything at this point. And this will be my final part. At this point I think the prototype is basically done, and I will be doing a cleaned up version, like right here as you see the prototype on the left. And I'll be doing a cleaned up version with this actually pretty good quality DMG shell that I got off of AliExpress. And also be doing some mods as well with this I believe M2 screen I got off of Funny Playing. I'll be doing a couple more mods as well, speaker amp, USB-C charging, and I believe 2 others. Yeah, it'll be quite different because I have to adjust some of the brackets and frames just to fit for like the new mods. Like this screen, for the new screen, this whole this part that I'm outlining right here with my finger needs to go, like this whole bezeled part, because it won't fit at all with the new screen. And then of course that means any like post on the other side of it also has to go. So that will be the change, and then there's also some other stuff I have to modify as well. But yeah, that video should be coming out hopefully in not too long, because I've been procrastinating this way too much. Yeah, that's pretty much everything.